of mathematics, welcome to session 4 of unit 5, how to create authentic assessment. I am Munkaila Dasmani, your course instructor. By the end of this session, you should be able to describe the steps involved in creating authentic assessment. Steps for creating authentic assessment. We have 5 steps. First step, identify the standards and then select authentic tasks. Identify the criteria for the tasks, create rubrics for scoring, and then determine the benchmark for minimum performance. So we stick with them one after the other. We just try to explain some of them. The first is to identify the standards. So here, in creating authentic assessment, the first step is to determine the list of knowledge and scores. This includes the content, processes, and values. So this list becomes your standards. Standards are statements of what students would be able to know and be able to do. So when you know what students will be able to do and can do, then you know your standards. Also, select authentic tasks. Now that you have identified your standard you want to meet, you will have to find a way that students can demonstrate that they are capable of meeting the standard. Okay, so here for a particular standard or set of standards, develop a task your student could perform. Don't go and develop a task that your student cannot perform. A task that they would perform and it would indicate that they have met these standards. Identify the criteria for the task. You should now ask yourself, what does good performance on the student task look like? The characteristics of good performance on the task are the criteria, and if present in the work of student, would indicate that they have performed well on such task. So in that instance, you should be able to determine if students have performed well on the task. You have to identify and look for characteristics of good performance. So here are the criteria or good performance are the following characteristics. It should be clearly stated, it should be brief, and then look for the rest. Okay. Step 4, create rubrics for scoring. Once you have identified the criteria for the task, you will have to discriminate student performance across the criteria. To determine how well students perform and differentiate among student performance across the criteria, you will have to create a rubric for such. Step 5, benchmark for minimum performance. The last step is to determine how well most students perform, and that is the last step. So the minimum level at which you would want most students to perform is your benchmark. So this information from the rubric will give students feedback, and this will allow the teacher to adjust instruction. Okay. So in this step, look at the 5 steps for authentic assessments, and we say that the first is identify the standards, select authentic tasks, identify the criteria for the tasks, also create rubrics for scoring, and the last is that to determine the benchmark for minimum performance.